Now for battle time with Granny. What's the price of knowledge? When you learn something new, does it change your perspective on someone or something? Do you ever wish you hadn't learned something? I have. It really disappoints me when I learn something about one of my favorite actors. Before, it was easy to see them as the person they were portraying in a movie or TV show. Then you learn something about them, be it their politics or that they're not a very nice person. It totally ruins every movie or show after that. I just can't enjoy watching them anymore. All I see is that thing I learned about them. Sometimes being in the dark is a positive, but is being in the dark in your personal life a positive? Do you really want the knowledge or the truth all the time? Finding out the truth changes us. Are you perfectly happy one day and then you find out a truth and then you're unhappy and dissatisfied? What's more important, happiness or truth? Let's take a job. Suppose you absolutely love your job. You're doing exactly the work you've always wanted to do. It has great hours, benefits, pay, close to home, and you really like your coworkers. But then someone tells you a coworker that's doing the same job as you is making more money than you for the exact same thing you're doing. With that one little piece of knowledge, your whole world is turned upside down. It isn't fair. That's the usual first reaction of most people. Now your perspective is different. The questions fill your mind. Why are they getting paid more? Now your perfect job isn't so perfect anymore. You're not happy anymore. Was the price of the knowledge worth it? What if you could turn back time and never know that fact? Just be happy again. These questions are normal. This is where a lot of people get stuck. This idea that life is fair. It hurts many, many people. What's true is life isn't fair. In fact, you should really take this to heart and learn it early. Life isn't fair. Never was, and it'll never be fair. You can't make life fair. The reality is, you don't want life to be fair. Sounds silly, doesn't it? We all think it should be fair, but then we want to be the best at something. See, for you to be better, someone else has to be worse. That doesn't mean that the better person should have to give up being better to make the worse person feel better. This idea of being equal has gotten out of control. The idea of equality has permeated society so much that we barely function anymore. You really don't want equality, even if they have convinced that you do. Why? Because people aren't equal. Some people are smarter. Some people have more music ability. Some people are more athletic, on and on. Since you can't make people that don't have these abilities equal to those that do, the only option to make them equal is to keep the ones that do from being able to do. Get it? The only way to be equal is to bring down the gifted ones. This brings in the thoughts that I deserve better. Going back to the job example, suddenly finding out the fact your coworker makes more than you for the same job, this knowledge makes you think, I deserve the same pay. But do you really? While you might be doing the same job, are you giving the same results? Obviously not. There is a reason they are getting more pay. You just don't have the knowledge of why they are getting more. So the question is, 1, do I want to change something in me to get what they are getting? Or 2, would I rather stay the same and continue getting the lower wage. The thinking life is fair and I deserve what they are getting is sticking your head in the sand. It's fine to be happy and stay where you are, doing the same thing. However, if you want what they have, you need to find out what they are doing to get where they are. Not by bringing them down, but by bringing yourself up, if that's what you want. See, the price of knowledge means your perspective will change, and you can't change that fact. You either stay exactly where you are forever, or you grow. And growing means you have to accept the knowledge that you are not the best at everything, or the worst at anything. We're all on a scale of knowledge or ability. You can change where you are on the scale by learning, but more importantly, by actually doing. Life isn't fair. Remember that. Now back to the story of Ellen, Tom, Hattie, questions, and light. This is part 3. Go back to the others if you need to, parts 1 and 2. The next few days felt like a blur for Ellen. The world around her didn't quite make sense anymore. Things that were once familiar, her apartment, her work, even her own reflection, felt off. It was as if reality itself was beginning to unravel, piece by piece. And with every question she asked, the world around her seemed to shift just a little bit more. She couldn't stop thinking about what Tom had said, and now her own obsession was beginning to mirror Hattie's. This need to understand, to get to the truth, no matter the cost. But as she kept searching, she started to feel something deeper, a nagging sense that maybe she was getting too close to something and she wasn't supposed to see it. One evening, after a long day at the office, Ellen sat alone at her kitchen table. The apartment felt cold, despite the heat running. She sat there staring at Hattie's journal, the pages filled with cryptic notes, equations, and odd observations about light. Hattie had written about the way light responded to questions, how it could change the way we perceive the world. And now, Ellen was beginning to understand that Hattie hadn't just been asking questions about the universe. She'd been asking questions about herself. Ellen picked up the journal, flipping to a page she hadn't read before. It was a list of things Hattie had jotted down, almost like a series of instructions. Ask and observe, light will guide you, but be warned, the more you observe, the more the world will reveal itself to you. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. Ellen swallowed hard. Could it really be that simple? Could a question, just a question, open up the world to something completely new? Or was it like Hattie had warned, the more you sought, the more you lost? Her fingers brushed over the pages and she paused, looking at a note Hattie had written at the bottom. The truth is a mirror. It shows you who you really are. Ellen put the journal down slowly. She was beginning to feel like she was being drawn into a current she couldn't control, that she was on the verge of something that could change everything. And just like Hattie, she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. The next day, Ellen tried to go about her routine as though everything was normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. The streets outside her window looked different, somehow distorted, like she was seeing them through foggy lenses. At work, she sat across from Rachel, one of her patients, who had been dealing with her own issues of purpose and meaning. But today, Ellen couldn't focus. She felt like her mind was miles away, consumed with questions she didn't even know how to ask. Rachel was speaking, but Ellen wasn't really listening to her. Rachel was saying, I don't know, Ellen. It's like everything is falling apart, but I don't even know why. I feel like I'm losing myself, like I'm fading into the background of my own life. Ellen snapped back to the present, her eyes meeting Rachel's. She tried to smile, but it felt forced. Then she said, You're not fading, Rachel. You're just going through a tough time. You'll find your way. Rachel's eyes searched Ellen's face, like she was seeing through her words. There was a knowing look in her eyes, a look that said she understood, even if Ellen didn't. Rachel responded, I don't know. It just feels like everyone is lost in their own world, trying to figure it out. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. Ellen nodded, but in her mind, she was spiraling. Rachel's words struck a chord with her. It felt like she was the one who was lost. Maybe Rachel wasn't just talking about herself. Maybe Ellen had already lost herself in this search for answers. Maybe she had become so consumed with finding the truth that she was forgetting to live. Ellen felt her phone buzz in her pocket. She reached for it, her fingers trembling slightly as she read the text. It was from Tom. The text read, Ellen, I need to show you something. Meet me tonight. It's urgent. The urgency in Tom's message made her stomach tighten. What could he be found out now? Was it more of Hattie's research, or was it something new, something more dangerous? She quickly texted him back. What is it? No reply, just like before. That night, Ellen met Tom at a small diner, one of their usual spots. Tom was already sitting in a booth, his hands clasped together as he stared down at the table. When Ellen slid into the seat across from him, she could see the tension in his face. He was nervous, more than usual. Tom, what's going on? You said you found something. Tom didn't look up immediately. He seemed almost afraid. Finally, after a long pause, he spoke. I found Hattie's final notes, the last thing she wrote before everything changed. He pulled out a small folder from his bag and handed it to Ellen. Inside were more of Hattie's scribbles, notes that didn't make sense at first glance. But then Ellen saw it. At the top of one of the pages, Hattie had written, The more you seek the truth, the more it will consume you. It is the price of knowledge. Ellen's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Tom, her voice barely a whisper. What do you mean, consume me? What did she mean by that? Tom looked up, his eyes dark with worry. Then he said, I think Hattie started losing herself, Ellen. The deeper she went into her work, the more she became disconnected from reality. She wasn't just studying light anymore. She was becoming it. The boundaries between her mind and the world she was observing started to blur. And then she disappeared. Ellen's breath caught in her throat. Disappeared? Hattie had vanished, but Tom was saying it was more than just a disappearance. She was consumed by her own quest for truth. Ellen asked, So what? You think the same thing could happen to me? Tom nodded slowly and tentatively spoke. I don't know, but I can't watch you go down the same path. Hattie was obsessed with this idea, this belief that light could change reality, that questions could reshape the world. But it wasn't just about science anymore. It became about her identity. And once you start questioning yourself, there's no going back. Ellen's mind raced. She'd been asking questions for weeks, trying to understand something she couldn't explain. But now, hearing Tom's words, the weight of it hit her. Was she losing herself? Had she already started down the same path as Hattie? What should I do, Tom? Tom looked at her, his eyes filled with fear. Stop asking questions, Ellen. You have to stop before it's too late, before you lose yourself the way Hattie did. Ellen stared at him, torn. She wanted to stop. She wanted to turn away from the pull of the unknown, but deep down, she knew she couldn't. The questions had become too powerful. They had already changed her. And the truth, the real truth, was something she wasn't sure she could ever walk away from. That night, back in her apartment, Ellen couldn't sleep. The weight of Tom's words haunted her. She sat at her desk, staring at the journal in front of her. The urge to ask another question was overwhelming. She knew it was dangerous, that it could push her further into madness. But it was as if something inside her wouldn't let go. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and whispered to the empty room. What happens when we go too far? The room grew cold. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Ellen felt the weight of something bigger than her, something that had been there all along, just waiting for her to ask the right question. Ellen has gone too far to turn back now. The questions she's asking are no longer about finding answers. They're about changing the very fabric of reality itself. But at what cost? Into part 3. Check out over here for Bible study and check out here for more Granny Battletime. I'm Merrill, and this is Battlegram. Join me for the next episode. Subscribe and share. Be courageous.